Let's Talk About Suicide is a new free online suicide prevention training programme from the HSE. It is now freely available to everyone over 18 years and above. Today is Mark's World Suicide Prevention Day, and with the team of Changing the Narrative. I'm delighted to be joined in studio now by Resource Officer for Suicide Prevention with the HSE Midlands, Josephine Rigney. Good morning, Josephine.
Good morning, Ron, and good morning to everyone who's listening to us.
Josephine, kind of a topic, it's inevitable and I suppose unsurprising that we have World Suicide Prevention Day. Take us through some of the key themes and the main objectives of this campaign.
Yes, as you say, Ronan, the 10th of September every year is designated as World Suicide Prevention Day, and every year they have a theme, and this year, as you mentioned there, the theme is Changing the Narrative. And I suppose really the aim of that is to try to endeavour to make people more comfortable with the topic of suicide. Try to take away that fear, the stigma, the silence that's been there for so long, and it's that fear and that stigma that keeps that conversation about suicide. It inhibits it. And where does that fear come from? Perhaps it's the fear from the person who may be actually struggling with trying to stay alive. They may be fearful of reaching out for help. They may be fearful of judgment or being misunderstood. And there's also fear then from the point of view of the person who may be concerned about them. What should I say? What can I say? How can I help them? How can I be supportive? And all of those two fears, what that actually brings about is that person stays there with the burden and the struggle that they're doing, and they're isolated. So the aim of World Suicide Prevention Day, the aim of the Let's Talk About Suicide programme, which the HSE has recently developed, is to try to assist people to become more comfortable with the topic. How can we help ourselves to reach out to people that we are concerned about?
And you say it could be a huge barrier or almost that cliff that you can't get over to just ask somebody, maybe a loved one or a friend as well, because I know that Let's Talk About Suicide, it's to try to help participants to identify people who are at risk and ask, I suppose, confidentially in the right manner if things are okay.
Exactly that. We're all every day engaging with people, having conversations, and sometimes our gut and our instinct can be very good to us and really steer us and give us a vibe about a person. But if we are engaged in a conversation and we're noticing maybe some things they're saying that they're feeling like a burden, or we're noticing very pessimistic talk or critical talk, and we're also observing some behavioural signs, and maybe we've noticed that they've gone through a big life change or a transition in their life that's very challenging for them. And then, that's about recognising the signs. It's not that we want to be alarmist, but if we are seeing those things and we're concerned, and that's what the programme teaches us then. So to recognise those signs initially, but then how do I engage in a conversation? What's the right thing to say? What's the right language to use? How do I ask that very important question that you just said? How and it's a difficult question. How do I come to the point of saying to a person, are you thinking of ending your life? Are you having thoughts of suicide? And then going on from that conversation, and how do I be supportive? How do I offer help? And how do I encourage them to reach out to the supports and the services that are there to help them to stay alive?
And because that conversation, if somebody has the courage to ask a question such as that, it could be at very early stages of spotting maybe, as you said, change in behaviour, or it could be at a very different time where somebody maybe needs immediate intervention too. So there's never possibly a bad time to ask that question.
No, and there's always the myth out there that, if I ask that question, are they going to get really cross with me? Am I going to destroy the relationship? Am I going to put the idea into their head? But what the research tells us, and what people who have had experience of suicide behaviour tells us, it's always a good thing to ask. If you're concerned, it's good to ask. And what you are doing is opening up that conversation. You're giving that person that opportunity to talk about what's in their head, to maybe to clarify what's going on for them, to make sense of it. But also what you're showing is, I care, I'm concerned about you. And as you said, maybe it's very early in the conversation you might open up that conversation. But those are the things, like, you're not going to go straight in and ask the person, are you thinking about ending life? But you're going to say to them, I'm very concerned about you. I know you've been through a tough time lately. I'm noticing some things about you. And you're going to engage in that conversation. But sometimes we might hesitate about having that conversation. We mightn't have the confidence in ourselves to do that. And what engaging in this programme does, it gives us that that confidence in ourselves. It empowers us to be able to have those conversations and to know that it's okay to have those conversations. And what we are doing is actually helping that person in front of us and empowering them to stay alive, which essentially is what it's all about.
The programme uses a mix of guided online content, videos, interactive questions. It takes about 60 minutes for people to complete, but they can work at their own pace too. So very doable and a great knowledge and skill set for somebody to have.
Very doable. It's a lovely programme. It's a really good programme. It's available, as you said, online, so you can go on and you can stop and you can come back to it. And it's available for anybody over the age of 18 years who wants to learn those basic skills. And in the programme, it's very well produced, that there are very relatable videos. There's 3 videos as you go through the programme, and they depict real life situations. There's 2 guys in a building site having a conversation. There's 2 neighbours having a conversation, and there's 2 strangers who are just meeting casually in a park. Any of situations that could happen to any of us. And then as you go through the programme as well, there's interactive questions that it asks so that we can learn and gain knowledge. And then the really good part of the programme is that it allows you to record your own voice. It prompts you to how to ask that question, and then it allows you to record your voice saying, are you thinking about ending your life? Are you having thoughts of suicide? And the beauty about that is that you're hearing yourself saying it, but you're also getting to practice it. So that if ever you do find yourself in a position where you're in front of somebody, you have practiced that. You have said those words. And you have the confidence in yourself that you're able to say those words. And most importantly, maybe hear the response and be able to respond calmly and in a supportive way.
Yeah, that sounds powerful, because I'm thinking of, the old advice for job interviews: sit in front of a mirror, practice your responses. I don't know anybody who's ever done it, because people cringe and they go.
Yeah.
Whereas this, asking that question, it's just a simple statement.
Yes.
Having that practice, undoubtedly, it'll flow out easier. The brain already knows you've actually done it in the past, so you can do it again. And to think of the difference that could make to somebody.
And I've asked people many times, are they thinking about ending their life? But even when I was doing this programme, I stumbled over it, and I had to go back and say, gosh, I didn't do it properly there, because it's that hearing yourself, but it's the practice. And then, as you say, I've done it before, I've said those words. And even to formulate, what is the language I would use? Am I going to say, are you thinking of ending your own life? Or am I going to say, am I going to use the word suicide? Are you thinking of suicide? So it's, you've practiced it. And that makes all the difference in our confidence and our reassurance.
I'm sure even though it gives you a sense of the tonality, as you said, the delivery, how you will, you're not going to lead into the conversation with that being the first question, unless maybe it is a situation where you deem maybe immediate action is needed. But a key part of all this as well is you can just link somebody with the supports that they need to keep them alive. Can you take us through some of the supports that are currently available?
Yes, there's many supports that are out there, and I suppose it's about identifying what supports are relevant for that person. As we know, suicide is a very complex topic, and people can come to that for many different reasons, and for a complexity of reasons. So it could be depression, it could be a diagnosable mental illness, it could be a challenging life event, it could be trauma, whatever it is. So there's lots of different supports and relevant supports that are out there for people who may be looking for that help. And it's good for us to know what supports are out there, and we know it's always a good first idea for people to go to their GP. The GP is the gateway to all the HSE services, but also they will have the knowledge of the other supports and counselling services that are out there as well. The emergency services obviously are always there. Our A&E hospitals are always open 24 hours of the day, and of course there's the out of hours service as well. And on the Let's Talk About Suicide programme, there is a piece there where it actually, you can go on and you can look at what are supports in my county. And you can click on an interactive map, and it brings up all the list of all the various services. We know in Tullamore here we have ECT, we have Accessible Counselling Tullamore. All the family resource centres are very good services as well. PH at the Samaritans, they're all there. And also yourmentalhealth.ie, it's a really, really good website where people can actually go in and look at and click on my county and know the relevant supports, because the person who is in distress and who may not know where to go, they may be looking to us for help and to signpost into services. And it's good for us to know as well where are the supports that are there.
And I think it's a message that has to be just keep being shouted out, that the support services are there. For World Suicide Prevention Day then, different events taking place, different things to kind of mark the day too. What's happening around the Midlands, you know?
Well, I'm on my way up to an awareness an awareness stand in the Midland Regional Hospital here in Tullamore. There's also one, colleagues of mine are facilitating one in Portlaoise and also in Mullingar, and we'll have one later on in the week in Longford. So it's just creating the awareness, and we'll have lots of leaflets and our signposting material for people to pick up. And also, of course, it's Green Ribbon Month as well, so we'll be encouraging people to wear the green ribbon and to learn more about the message of green ribbon and to break that stigma down around mental health, which all leads into the topic of let's talk about suicide. Giving us that confidence and reassurance to be able to reach out to people, and if we're concerned about them. And knowing that is that's all us playing our part. It gives us the hope and the empowerment to be able to play our part in helping to reduce the tragedy of suicide. And of course, at this time, we have to be very sensitive to people who have unfortunately lost family members or friends or colleagues. It's a very sensitive time and a difficult time for them, because unfortunately they are hearing the word suicide. It may be stirring up feelings and emotions for them. So it behoves us really to be sensitive and caring and compassionate to people who have been bereaved.
That's it. And I think unfortunately we all probably know a few people who have lost their lives to suicide as well.
Yes.
And whether it was labelled as that or called that to begin with, we know now that's exactly what it was. And even for myself, a very close friend earlier this year took their own life through suicide, and you just never expected, and it's devastating, I think, on all sides as well. But fantastic work, great campaign, and thank you so much for telling us about Let's Talk About Suicide. And again, a resource that's really available to all. hse.ie/let's talk is your best bet. You can go on there, you can register, and you can complete that course in your own time as well.
Thank you very much, Ronan.
Thank you, Josephine Rigney, the Resource Officer for Suicide Prevention with the HSE Midlands. So keep an eye out around your towns, around your villages too, and do what you can. Become part of that conversation as well. And Let's Talk About Suicide is that 60-minute online programme offered by the HSE, and all coincides with today being World Suicide Prevention Day.